the wire connecting music lovers around the world. You're listening to 𝐒𝐻. Giving you a dose of R&B with the click of the play button.
I'm your host, Deluxe Dave.
Just connecting your cord to 𝐻. Well, look at that. I can finally say happy spring, all of my music lovers out there. It is your man, Deluxe Dave, here bringing you a brand new episode of 𝐻, the only R&B podcast here on the CWF network, where I'm giving you and highlighting music from the past to the present, and then you're giving me your take on the music that I've talked about from that week. You can only hear shows just like this right here on the CWF network, where each and every single week we're bringing you big content in small pieces. Last week I kicked it off with my spring playlist the day before spring started, and a lot of you loved my playlist. A few of you commented on one of the last posts that I posted about this episode that had like a song attached to it. It was basically just like a regular old promotion, but it had a song attached to it from the group 𝐻𝐻𝐻 called Boo Thang, and I love that song, so I had to post it on something. I had to have it included in something. I had been really going hard with the Bruno Mars, but I wanted to post another group that was on my list, which was 𝐻𝐻𝐻. So if you have not listened to their album Homegrown, I'm gonna need you not to miss out on that excellent piece of really smooth, perfect R&B. Well, this week I wanted to do a Did It Age Well. We had to bring it back out because I have been sitting there contemplating for the longest time, and sometimes, you know, you have to try to prepare your episodes like way in advance, and I still didn't know who I wanted to cover on this Did It Age Well. And then I started thinking about something, because I'm getting ready to do another episode in the upcoming week, and then I started thinking about this controversy surrounding this artist, and I wanted to highlight an album that came out back in 2004. So that is about 17 years ago that this album came out. The album was called Damita Jo, and it is like I said, 17 years old, and I can remember, I don't think I've even talked about Janet Jackson that much in any of my episodes thus far, which is very surprising because I really loved Janet Jackson. Now, I really did not get into Janet Jackson until 2000, like I was not in like where I actually owned a Janet Jackson album till around 2001 when her album All For You came out. Now, I saw little spurts of Janet Jackson here and there because, like I always say on every episode, I wasn't able to listen to all that type of music, so I had to sneak to watch all of the other stuff with the Anytime, Any Place, all that Poetic Justice, all those eras that she had way before. I had to sneak to watch those, so I couldn't really envelop myself into Janet Jackson music. But All For You was one of the albums that I purchased. That was one of the first albums I purchased when I was in high school. So I remember the success of that album and how great that album was. And it felt like Janet was on this rise from 2001, 2002. I think she was touring. She was doing a lot of different stuff. And then this big, huge opportunity came up for her to perform at the Super Bowl. And as she was preparing for this Super Bowl and bringing out all, like, I think Diddy was there at her Super Bowl performance, and she brought out Mr. Justin Timberlake. Yes, I'm going to cover him next week, but she brought this person out, and it ended with a nip slip of sorts. I can remember sitting right there on the floor. This is the funniest story, because I was actually sitting there on the floor watching on television. We had decided to do like a Super Bowl like men's gathering. I was in church during that time a lot more, and I was like deeper enveloped in. So we went to this men's gathering where we were going to watch the Super Bowl, and I'm sitting there with all of these church people. We're watching the Super Bowl. I'm watching the halftime show, you know, just kind of eating and stuff. And then I see that happen, and I was like, oh, this is very awkward at this moment that I am here with all of these church people, and we're seeing this nip slip. So, you know, back then I was like, you know, you're shocked, and because you don't see anything like that on primetime television. So I can remember that so very well. And this was like a month or so before her release of Damita Jo was supposed to come out in March of 2014 or 2004. So, you know, this dampened that, because now I feel like the industry kind of blackballed Janet. You know, she was shamed for everything that happened, and, you know, it was made it look like she had set this thing up to happen and it was unplanned, and she took the whole brunt of it, which I feel like helped her, like her album's sales probably from Damita Jo lowered a lot more. Now, this album, Damita Jo, was so packed with so many great producers, artists. It was just packed from, you know, Jermaine Dupri made his appearances in like some of the videos, and this is when they were dating. This was like the Jermaine Dupri era, so I remember that very succinctly when Janet was dating him. I'm not sure if he worked on any songs on the album, but they were very intertwined at that time. And Damita Jo kind of followed the same pattern as All For You. It almost was like, when I was listening to it, it was almost like a part two to how All For You came out. It was almost like Damita Jo was going to be this next era that would kind of follow the footsteps of it, sound a little bit different, but a lot of the songs they're not the same, but they have the same kind of cadence or sound as All For You. Because of that success, you want to follow that same pattern or that same formula. So we had Jay-Z on there producing stuff, which I don't know if you knew that, but Jay-Z was on there producing. You had Kanye was on one of the songs, and he produced a few of the songs on that album, Damita Jo. Jimmy Jam had joined back with her doing things with this album, and Dallas Austin had written a song for her, I think, at the end of the album. The whole album should have gained so much more traction than it did, but due to that Super Bowl incident, you know, the real Janet fans stayed with her. I was one of those. You know, at that time, I think I was going to college. I had gone to college, and I was there, and I can remember going out and buying the album and everything like that, because I was a true Janet fan. You know, from All For You, I'm like all in. And so I can remember going and buying that Damita Jo, and all of those CDs were sitting up there on the shelf, and I was like, oh man, they really did try to write off Janet Jackson. But you know what? Even with that album at the time being so low in sales or not gaining as much traction as All For You, it was a very popular club album, because I can remember walking into some clubs while I was in college, and they were bumping some of the songs from that album. There was a song on there called All Night Don't Stop. I can remember walking in. It was a real funky beat to it. There were so many good songs on that album. I can remember loving the song I Want You, because that was a song that had Jermaine Dupri in it, but it was just you really got to hear Janet's voice in that song. And to me, the success of it is proven by where they're playing that music. You know, you might not have heard it on the radio because of the blackballing, but you know, the general public was still accepting that album. And that's really why I enjoyed Damita Jo. It was one of those albums that, you know, even though a lot of people weren't rocking with Janet at the time, it still proved that true Janet essence to it. Because I really, like I said, I didn't fall in love with Janet, and it was like around the time when Scream came out, when she did that duet with Michael, because I always loved Michael Jackson, and for some reason I could listen to Michael Jackson music, but not Janet. It was a weird thing. But I listened to that duet that they did and saw her dance, her skills and everything, and she had been doing so much more before that Scream came out. But that is when, you know, I just really fell in love with her as an artist, as a dancer, as a singer, and just everything in it. So Damita Jo was that extra bump that I think I needed from All For You. So it's an album that I played so much, and although Damita Jo did not reach the heights it should have, I do believe that Janet always finds a way to stay in her comfortable pocket. Like when it comes to singing, even with All For You, even with the albums that came before that, even with some of these songs now, it's like she finds a way to kind of infuse that same type of sound or that flair that we love, and we still love it to this day. I'm glad that she's kind of branched out now, and she sounds similar, but she's doing a little bit of things to stretch herself, and I really do love that about, you know, the things that she's coming out with now, and the future of what she's going to give us, you know, maybe after this pandemic is finally settled. See if she'll give us another round. You know, Janet is up there, not up there, but she's in her 50s. And for her to be out here doing everything that she does in her 50s, it blows my mind. It's mind boggling. So if you're to ask me, did the album Damita Jo age well? In the eyes of our society or the eyes of the industry, no, Damita Jo didn't age well, because you're not hearing too many of those songs anymore. You know, you're not hearing, they're not talking about just that album. It's other albums that have gained the traction. But to me, Damita Jo did age well, because if you go back and listen to it now, it's giving us the same Janet that we always loved, but it's just upping it and giving you like almost a sequel to All For You. To me, that's what Damita Jo sounds like to me, and I really, really enjoy Damita Jo. So yeah, in the eyes of the industry, it did not, but I'm giving it aged well in my eyes. So I hope you guys can understand that. Now, before I get out of here, I am going to be adding a segment to the end of every single show to talk about my 3 favorite people in music this week. That is going to be a special segment. I'm going to add it to the end of every show to kind of highlight who has stuck out to me from the week, or who's been on my mind, or who are the top 3 people in music that I have been like listening to. So let's listen up to this. This week, my 3 favorite people in music, and I'm going to let you know why. Number 1 is Chloe Bailey. I got to shout out Chloe Bailey because she's been doing her own thing right now with the separation. You know, her sister's out there doing The Little Mermaid. Chloe Bailey's up here becoming her own like almost solo artist. And now we get to see her start to kind of step into her own lane with kind of that duo kind of taking little breaks from each other right now and doing their own things on the side. Chloe has started to sing and just kind of put herself out there a lot more with the Leave the Door Open, where she was actually doing a cover of Silk Sonic's Leave the Door Open. And you know, I love that song. I talked about it last week. That song is amazing. She did her own rendition. And let me tell you, at first I really wasn't feeling it. I was like, okay, yeah, that's nice. That's cool. But when she hit that high note at the very end of this Leave the Door Open cover, I was like, it was giving me a little Whitney-esque. It was like a little bit of Whitney-esque. I was like, I didn't even know I knew she had range, but who knew? So I feel like they're really moving Chloe into that solo position. And I think she's really working hard to separate herself from the normal Chloe and Bailey. I think it boxes her in. So now she's really able to express herself the way she needs to. So Chloe Bailey's on my list, number 1. Number 2, I'm giving it to the next girl, Victoria Monet. So it's all girls this week because I'm highlighting R&B girls. So these are my favorite people of the week in girls R&B, or the new upcoming R&B girls. I was just telling a friend the other day also that I'm getting the vibes of like the 2000s when it was saturated with young pop and R&B girls, and everybody was trying to like claw their way to the top, and everybody was trying to do their own thing. So I feel like it's like a renaissance, and we're rebirthing new upcoming R&B artists, from the Normanis to the Chloes to the next person I'm going to mention, which is Victoria Monet. She came out with like an audition tape to this Jaguar Live that she did. It was like Jaguar Live. That was a song or an album that came out a few months back where she was talking, like basically it was her solo album, her solo project. And in this one, she's actually auditioning to be like the opening act for Silk Sonic. So it's another Silk Sonic tribute, which I don't think got as much, pull as what, Chloe's did, but it's an amazing thing. If you go watch it on YouTube, it's Jaguar Live, and she does this like rendition where she's like back in time, and I'm really, really loving Victoria Monet and what she's doing. She's so creative. She's very, very talented. I really can't wait to see what's coming up for her, because she's a great songwriter also. She's written for the likes of Ariana Grande, for Chloe and Halle. Like she has done her thing, and I'm really interested to see her come up. And there's one last person, the third on my list for my 3 favorite people in music this week, is a woman that I have found out about this week. I had no clue about her until I started seeing her CD that came out start popping up on people's pages from the artwork. And then I listened to the album and I was blown away. Her name is Joyce Rice. It's spelled W-R-I-C-E. The album is called Overgrown. All I'm going to tell you to do right now, before I even go into this, because I might do a whole separate about this album, but Overgrown is the 2000s R&B album that was lost or something like that, because I don't know how she tapped into this on this album, but it is giving those type of vibes on it. But it is true R&B. It is true to the cause. It's that it has music you can dance to, music you can sit back and sip some wine with. It is a great album, and I can't wait to get that vinyl and hock it up and really listen to this album once more through before I may do something about it later on, but we will see. So those are my 3 favorite people in music this week. I am really interested to hear what you thought about this Damita Jo that I've been talking about today with Janet Jackson. Was it one of your favorite Janet albums, or was one that was like tossed to the wayside? You can always let me know by reaching out or calling the CWF Network hotline at 347-719-3350. We always love to hear from you on Instagram, also at CWFP_. You can also follow me, Deluxe Dave, on Instagram at DELUXE DAVE. Never forget, there is so much good music out there. The key is to know which song matches the moment. So if I gave you the aux cord, would you know what to do with it? Till next time, I'll see you all here next week.
This is the CWF Network, where we bring you big content in small pieces. Follow us on Instagram at CWFP_. Okay, bye.